So here we are. I'm going to give you a complete demonstration on throwing on the wheel. The first thing you'll notice is that we have the separate table. This is called a wedging table. And what I want you to start with is about 2 pounds of clay. You can just cut that off. This clay has no grog in it. Grog is like sand, and the sand will make it easier to build, but it might hurt your hands when you've got it on the wheel. So I've got this little guy. I'm going to put that on there, and guess what? I just happen to be about 2 pounds right there. And close this back up. Oftentimes when you guys come in, I'll have the clay waiting for you, and I'll have it underneath a little flap like this to keep it moist. And then you'll just come in, and when you wedge, you take your clay, and it's important that you do this because sometimes we're not using perfect clay. We're using clay that's been redone. And you're going to smash it down on this table, and then roll it and smash it again, and you're doing that with 2 hands. And what this does is it gets the clay molecules kind of lined up and ready for your hands to work with it on the wheel. And when you do that, you can see it sort of makes a little face with a nose. All right? Raise your hand if you've ever kneaded bread. Good. All right. So it's similar to that. You want to get everything kind of in its own way. You want to wedge it, wedge it, wedge it, wedge it, wedge it, wedge it. See how I'm kind of turning it as I do it? And each time I'm getting that little face. All right? Okay, I've wedged it. I happen to know this is pre-wedged, but you won't know that for sure, so make sure that you wedge before you come. Now I'm going to take this clay and I'm going to pound it into a perfect sphere. And it's fun. All right? All right, stop that for a second. All right, I'm going to start that over. All right, you'll notice that I have a bucket with water, a sponge in it. I've got a cutoff wire. I've got a wooden tool that's got a 45-degree angle, and I've got a needle tool, and that's for checking the thickness. This is a bat, and it will already be set up for you. There's 2 sides, one that's smooth and one that's kind of rough. You want the rough because you want your clay to stick to it. All right? You'll also find a towel. There are parts of the towel that say art, and that should be up. So if I look at this side, I know that I'm okay to put it on my lap because there's not clay stuff on that side. Before I sit down though, what I want to do is I want to take my perfectly wedged sphere of clay, which is 2 pounds in weight, and I want to aim for that and I want to make it stick. Like that, okay? Now, I'm going to sit down on my, and this isn't the most ladylike of art projects, but you're really going to kind of hug it with your legs, all right? Before I do that, I want to just see that. I'm going to put this on. I may put some over here and some over there so that I'm completely covered. You should remove your jewelry, get in the way, and clip your hair back so it doesn't get in your way when you're doing this. Now, I've got this on my wheel. These are the gutters, and that's going to keep it from splurting all over the place. And here is my gas pedal, and I'm going to be able to control it. I'm going to just try that. Different speeds. The whole basis of working on the wheel is that you've already got the thing going. So if you can just keep yourself centered, you'll be able to create really professional looking pottery. We're going to start with a cylinder, and almost everything starts from a cylinder. So the first thing you need to do, and I've got a videotape for you that you can review. It's called 6 Steps to Throwing Bliss. And the guy's excellent at doing it. But I want to show you this. I've got my hips here and my elbows here. I need to have a strong power base. So I'm going to click those in, and I am going to make a triangle with my body, and I'm going to get on it if I need to. And that power is going to keep me from having my hands go like this, because if they go like that, you're not going to end up with anything. All right? So make sure that you're always connecting your body parts together and making kind of like a pyramid. And the triangle is the strongest shape. So I'm going to start this. And I should have a smock on. I'm not going to put a smock on because we've got this thing going. But yes, there's a smock, and you guys can help yourself. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of water. friction is not your friend when you're throwing on the wheel. First thing I want to do is make sure that this is centered. You see how it's kind of going blah, 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 blah? That shows you that this is not centered yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock my elbows in, and I'm going to put my hands like this, and it's this part of my hands that I'm going to push up against that. Not hold the clay, but push with that part of my hand. And when I do that, there's no place for that clay to go but exactly in the center. So here I go. And notice that I've got my hips, and I'm pushing myself with my hips. You can see my hands are still all over the place. It means I'm not centered. But it's getting better. Now I can bring that clay up, then I can push it down. I'm going to keep this hand there and push down with the other hand. Pretty soon my hands are going to stop moving because everything's going to be perfectly centered. Like now. See that? My hands are no longer moving. You guys see it? And I'm going to mash it back down. Do that a few times and then mash it back down. Now when you mash it back down, kind of curve your hand so that you don't end up with something like that. You don't want that. You want it to be a mound like I just showed you. So curl your hands that way. If you just hold it, you end up with a good mound. All right? Whenever you take your hands away from the clay, always make sure you take it away while the clay is moving and slowly. If you do something erratic, it will mess up your space. It'll mess up your form. All right. Now, I did a pretty good job that there's not a bunch of clay around here, but that is a problem. Sometimes beginners get it too smashed down, and then it's all over the bat. So you just need to, oh, you know what I don't have is a, I don't have a rib. Do you know what a rib is, Inara? Yeah, that is a rib. Usually I have a wooden rib, but this is a rib, a serrated rib, but I can use that. So if that's the case, you can take this rib and put it all back into your mound of clay. All right, so now we're centered. Now we're ready to do some pottery. Again, I'm going to find my center, putting my elbows in, and I'm going to put my, actually I'm going to recenter a little bit. This is probably the hardest part, centering it. There you go. You see, I'm good with my hands. Slowly pull away. I'm going to keep that going and at a pretty fast speed. Now I'm going to take one thumb and I'm going to put it over the other thumb because the more body parts that I have that are touching, thank you, the better it's going to be. I'm going to have more control. Now I'm going to meditate on that a little bit. Sounds a little funny. I'm going to find the center. And when I'm sure that I'm good, I'm going to start to drill. And I'm going to go ahead with I'm going to be committed when I go down to the center. This is called dropping the hole, or making the hole. Here I go. I found that center. Notice my thumbs are not moving. They're staying in the center. I'm pushing it all the way down. And I'm going to stop when I get to a 1/4 of an inch from the bottom. How do I know it's a 1/4 of an inch? Partly I know just from the experience and how much clay I have here. The other way that I can check it is I can take my needle tool, I can put it inside, oops, and I'm a little shallow. But that's okay, I can use that for this demonstration. I'm a little shallow because I could take that and pull this up, and I can see that I've only got about 1/8 of an inch, which really isn't enough. I need a 1/4 of an inch. So if that were the case, we'd probably take a little bit of clay and patch it in like that, but don't look at that, okay? All right, so now we've dropped our hole. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to make this wide. Just like when I was centering, and you can center again at any time. I'm going to leave my left hand there, but I'm going to take my right hand and I'm put it into the bottom there, and I'm going to pull that bottom all the way out. Not letting this move out, but keeping this stable. Here I go. it has no place to go but up. Again, I'm going to pull my hands off. Now, it's kind of, even though I tried to make that a nice, and you want to guys come over and take a look inside. Even though I tried to make that straight, I wasn't quite successful. So step 2.5, when Andy Rubel talks about step 2.5, this is what he means. You're going to take your hands, your fingers, and run it across the bottom there till it's nice and compacted. It helps you, keeps you from having S cracks, and it gives you a better quality craft, okay? Okay, notice how I slowly pulled away and that I stop the wheel only when I'm off of it. Now the next thing we're going to do is pull, make our first pull. Again, at any point, if you feel like it's not centered, this looks pretty centered to me, but if it looks like it's not centered, then you'll want to recenter it, okay? And we're going to do that 3 times. Now the next step I'm going to show you, we're going to do 3 times, and each time our objective is to keep the walls of the clay as consistent and getting thinner and thinner each time. So I'm going to use my sponge to put some water on it because friction's not my friend. Now I'm going to lock my elbow. This is the way I do it. You may find a better way, but I'm going to connect these 2 thumbs because I want my body working as one piece. Now if you can see that I've made my fingers like this part is going to touch the bat. This is going to be a little bit higher because inside the clay I've got the floor of the clay, right? And I'm going to make this kind of shape. And I'm going to gather the clay for about 8 or 10 revolutions because there's a bunch of clay right here. And I'm going to lift that up slowly and carefully while I'm connected to my body. All right, let's see what we can come up with. And you want to do this pretty fast, so here I am. I'm one piece. I'm collecting. There's about 8 or 10 revolutions. There's a bunch of clay there. And when I'm ready, I'm going to raise my fingers up. I'm going to up to the top, hold, and slowly pull away.